I'm going through every single crypto token that I talked about in 2024, reviewing their success or failure so far, what they're currently up to, if I still hold those tokens or not, and overall my current updated thoughts on those projects. I'll also be highlighting the projects that I have a high level of conviction in going into 2025 and which projects I'm currently buying more of. Keep in mind, this is just my personal thoughts about various crypto projects that I've bought in and that I'm bullish on. None of this is investment advice, and you should always do your own research if you want to ultimately succeed. First up is Link, which I talked about back in January. Back then, I was bullish on their TradFi partnerships and their potential interop solutions. Chainlink back then was around $12 to $13, and today it's sitting around $14.81. For me, Chainlink was never a high conviction play. It was more of a blue chip asset where I had my funds sitting as I was looking for maybe smaller assets or mid-sized assets to allocate my capital into. And earlier this year, I ended up selling my Link to invest into higher conviction plays. This was less about me not believing in Chainlink and more about me just moving my funds into a place where I had deep conviction. Recently, Chainlink did a major overhaul to their protocol that I hear is pretty awesome and has a lot of potential. However, currently it's just not something that I've gotten into a ton myself. Second up is Redacted, which I first shared back in January of 2023. This one's fluctuated a lot over the past year. At times it was up 300%. At other times, it was down 30%, and currently it's sitting up around 40%. This is one that I've been actively staking. The gains from staking this one actually have been pretty lucrative so far over the past year. Redacted a few months ago ended up rebranding to Dinero. But the token for Redacted was Butterfly. It's BTRFLY, I think. And they ended up changing that token to the Dinero token. So there's on their site, there's a link you can click. You deposit your tokens. They end up transitioning them over to the Dinero token. And then you can stake that token as well to earn yield from the protocol. I recently doubled down on Dinero and ended up buying more before the election. For me, it's a bet on DeFi, restaking, stablecoins, and overall institutional interest. Dinero is currently tiny, sitting at just $38 million in market cap and can be bought on CowSwap on Ethereum. Third up is Cow, which I first shared back in November of 2023. And Cow so far has performed insanely well, going up over 500%. In fact, over the past 24 hours alone, it's gone up over 150%. Because it ended up getting listed on Binance, and that was a huge bid pushing up the price. Cow Protocol for me has always been a high conviction play, as I'm a power user of CowSwap and I often get better execution pricing than I even do swapping on Coinbase. So oftentimes I'll move my funds from Coinbase just to swap on CowSwap because the pricing is that much better due to their batch auctions and intense-based architecture. And I ended up doubling down on Cow back in July of this year. Cow Protocol recently released Cow AMM, which has been a huge success. Like all of their different releases, they always put a twist on what they're building and come out with some sort of innovation that the market hasn't seen before. Cow AMM is no different. It's a spin on classic AMMs that they hope is going to allow them to attract a lot more liquidity. Currently, I'm watching CowSwap and just seeing how they roll out across various other chains. Currently, they're only on Ethereum and Arbitrum, but they have plans to expand to a lot of other chains. So how fast do they roll out that expansion? What does that look like? Do they enable any sort of cross-chain capabilities? All that I think is really important to the future success of CowSwap, and I'm watching it really closely. You can buy Cow, obviously, on CowSwap on Ethereum. Fourth up is Picasso, which I shared back in December of 2023. Picasso back then was a low conviction narrative-based trade, so I was playing into the hype of Solana, Solana restaking, and all of that. And to date, Picasso has been nothing short of an absolute train wreck, at least for me personally, causing a near complete loss of funds. And about a month back, I decided to fully rotate out of this position and just accept the loss. Fifth up is K&K or Kaneko, which I shared back in September of 2023. This was a low cap crypto play within the GambleFi sector that I was actually pretty excited about due to its tiny size and the fact that it was on Solana. And this token did end up doing really well. It went from 9 cents all the way to $1.50 at one point, which is a 1,600% gain. Unfortunately for me, when it was up at $1.50 and I could have made an insane profit, I didn't sell anything. In fact, I didn't sell anywhere close to the top on this one. Back in May of this year, I ended up selling off my initial for my K&K, so the initial amount that I put into K&K, based off a recommendation from somebody who said they were just a power user of the platform. They reached out to me because they saw one of my videos. And they said they were having issues actually claiming their winnings. I didn't know if there was any validity to it or not, but they seemed to have a lot of evidence to support what they were saying. And they said the platform had other issues as well. Again, I don't know if any of this is true or not. So take all this with a grain of salt. I didn't know if it was true at the time, but it was enough to kind of spook me into selling my initial position. And finally, about a month back, I ended up selling the rest of my position, taking a slight profit, but not nearly as much as I could have made had I sold at the top. Sixth up is Across, which I shared in January of 2024. This one sits at the same conviction level as Cow for me, and it's very similar in that it's intent-based architecture, incorporating that into crypto to solve things like fragmentation between different chains. And Across is an amazing product. If you've never used it to like bridge between chains, it's insane. Sometimes bridging between various chains is like less than like a couple seconds. Like I'll send my money, and by the time I can check my wallet address, my money's already there. It is the single best bridging experience I've ever experienced in crypto. And I think Across has the potential to solve some of the biggest issues plaguing cross-chain interoperability today. In total, so far, Across has gone up around 123%. And I recently doubled down with this position and ended up buying even more ACX. And on top of all this, also, Uniswap ended up announcing that they've integrated Across into their platform. So now within Uniswap, you can do like cross-chain swaps using Across's intent-based architecture, which is pretty cool. You could buy ACX, which is the Across token, on Coinbase. Seventh up is Perion, which I talked about first back in December of 2023. This is a medium conviction play for me within the crypto gaming sector. And this heavily relies on a couple different things happening. We need a crypto gaming based rotation in order for this thing to take off, as well as we need an alt season in order for this thing to do well. But in that scenario, I believe the token for Perion Perk has the potential to actually do really, really well, being that it's just such a tiny token today, and it's got some decent fundamentals as well as a decent narrative around it when it comes to crypto gaming. I ended up recently buying more Perk. I didn't double down on my position. I just added a little bit to it because I believe we are going to see a crypto gaming rotation in 2025. Total Perk is up around 135%, and you can buy Perk on CowSwap on Ethereum. Eighth up is Layer AI, which I shared back in March of 2024. This is an extremely low conviction play based purely on narrative and hype. Basically, the idea that during a crypto bull run, during an alt season, we're going to see all sorts of crypto AI projects just popping off. Tech-wise, I have almost zero conviction when it comes to this play. In order for this one to do good, I'm purely betting on the fact that like there's just a ton of AI coins are popping off, and this one ends up popping off because they aren't really good at branding and marketing, etc. So they end up popping off. It's so tiny today that it ends up doing really well. But so far, this play has just been a massive loss for me. I'm down around 59%. I have zero gains on this one, and it just hasn't done well at all. That being said, I recently actually went to sell this play. But after looking into it, kind of looking at what they're doing, I ended up deciding to actually keep it, just hold on to it to see, what happens during the bull run. It's kind of like a Hail Mary play where I'm only putting a tiny bit of capital into it, not treating it like a meme coin, but it's like maybe one step above a meme coin where it's like, I got a little bit of capital in it. I'll see what happens during the bull run. You can buy Layer AI on Ethereum via CowSwap. Ninth up is Polygon's Pole token. I've talked quite a bit about Polygon's Pole token, and I've been extremely bullish on Polygon's tech. In my mind, and as I've talked about before, Polygon has the potential to have a Solana type run based around their ag layer, tons of chains joining it, and a ton of activity and focus on their ecosystem. Because of this belief, I took a big bet on Polygon back in March of 2023. And so far, this has been my biggest total loss in terms of like US dollar value out of any project to date. As the price of Pole has ended up falling quite a bit, but more so that I had more capital in this position than a lot of these smaller, riskier positions, because Polygon's like a bigger project. It's like a bluish chip project. Currently, Pole sits at around 41 cents. And I'm sitting at around a 12% loss. And although, again, that sounds stupid because it's only 12% loss, typically I don't allocate a lot of capital to these riskier ones. It's like a small amount of capital. So even if it's like a 50% loss, in US dollar value, it's not as much because I don't have a lot of capital in that play. Where Polygon, I had more capital in. So even though it's only a 12% loss, in USD value, I ended up losing a lot more because I had more capital allocated into Polygon. Despite all that, I still massively believe in Polygon. I think their tech is 10 out of 10. I think when the ag layer goes live, that's when you're going to finally start to see a lot of traction around Polygon. I would be really worried if the ag layer was fully live. We already have the Matic to Pole token rebranding and alt seasons going crazy. And if Polygon's still not catching a bid, that would seriously worry me as far as my Polygon investment, and maybe cause me to reflect and think differently on this. But until that happens, I'm going to trust in the fact that the Polygon team building out the ZK tech is some of the best in the space, if not the single best ZK team in the entire space. And that when the ag layer goes live, that's when you're going to finally see incentive and network effects start growing around the Polygon ecosystem. As I just mentioned, some of the catalysts to watch are the AG layer going fully live, Polygon's main chain switching to a layer 2 Validium, and of course, alt season in full effect. I still have 15 more tokens to cover, and I'm going to try to speed through these last 15 even faster than I've gotten through these ones so far, but really quick. The Obsidian Council is my private research community where I share monthly research, my entire portfolio, buy and sell alerts whenever I buy into a project, and a ton more. We've had projects like Akash, which is up over 955%, projects like Pendle, which is up over 1,400%, projects like Solana, which is up over 1,000%, and a ton more. The Obsidian Council is currently closed, and my waitlist has been growing a lot in the past few weeks as the market has been heating up. If you want to join the waitlist and have a chance to get in next time it opens up, make sure to join the waitlist in the description of this video. Number 10 is IMX, which I shared back in April of 2023. My view has been that Immutable, IMX, is like the Bitcoin of crypto gaming tokens, and that by investing into Immutable, it's kind of like investing into an index of the crypto gaming market. So if we see a lot of hype and rotation into the crypto gaming space, that's one of the best places for me to put maybe a bigger chunk of capital. And at its height, IMX actually did over 2024 go up over 200%. And I had made a small fortune because of the amount of US dollar in US dollar terms I'd allocated into this position. However, I didn't end up selling any when it was up 200% because we haven't had a proper crypto gaming rotation. And I felt like it was way too early to consider selling, and taking those profits. And since then, IMX has round tripped basically all the way back down. And currently I'm sitting up only around 10%. I'm still holding and sticking to my thesis that we're going to see a crypto gaming rotation at some point in 2025. And when that happens, that's going to be the time for me to sell my IMX. And until then, I'm just going to continue holding and trust in my thesis and see what happens. You can buy IMX on Coinbase. Number 11 is Akash. I first shared Akash way back in December of 2022. It was an extremely high conviction play for me and has so far gone from 19 cents to at its height over $6, which is an insane 3,100% gain. And that doesn't even account for the yield you actually get staking AKT, which is around like 17%, 16 or 17% staking it. Since then, Akash has pulled back with the rest of the market, and I've decided to add even more to my position. I'm currently up in USD terms around $90,000 on my Akash play, and it's done around a 1,400% gain, not including the yield again that comes from staking it. AKT, which is the token for Akash, has been hitting record highs on all its metrics, and being within the AI crypto sector, I personally think it has massive potential going into a 2025 bull run. You can buy Akash on Coinbase. Number 12 is Index, which I first shared back in March of 2023. And it's gone from around $1.90 to around $3.34 today. And at its height, it hit around $6.62. Index is a high conviction play for me, and I've constantly doubled down on it over the course of the last year. And I'm currently up around $12,000 on Index. You can buy Index on Coinbase. Number 13 is Ethereum, which I got into in November of 2022. Back then, ETH was around $1,100, and today, as of the day of this recording this video, it's around $3,200. And this has resulted in a really decent gain for me, as originally when I first started, I allocated the majority of my capital into ETH back in November of 2022 after FTX collapsed, originally staking it and using it to farm a ton of airdrops. I ended up making around $150,000 farming airdrops over the course of 2023 and 2024. Today, I only have a small sliver of my portfolio currently sitting in ETH, just because it's a less risky asset, as less potential upsides. Like Bitcoin, ETH, they're less risky. They have less potential upside. And I personally skew towards more risk and more upside. So I'm not as heavily allocated into positions like Bitcoin and ETH, but I'm still overall massively bullish on the Ethereum ecosystem. Number 14 is Winner, which I first shared back in September of 2023. And this is one of my highest conviction plays. Originally, I took a decent loss when I first got into Winner, but I tripled down when the price collapsed, and I'm currently sitting at around a 10% gain. On top of that, I'm currently making around $2,000 a month by staking my Winner. Keep in mind, I have a really large position in Winner. Again, it's one of my highest conviction bets, and that's why I'm able to make $2,000 a month staking it. I really need to do a video update on Winner, as I have a ton of conviction when it comes to Winner and the Winner ecosystem. And as I just mentioned, staking Winner has been extremely lucrative so far. And if it hit any sort of profit levels similar to what Rollbit claims to make, so they say they make around $30 to $60 million a month. If Winner hit anywhere close to those levels, then the revenue that I would be making staking my Winner would be just like astronomically insane. Currently, it's really good so far, but it would just get astronomical if it were to hit those levels. Right now, over the last 2 months, I think they've made around $700,000 versus Rollbit says they make around $30 to $60 million a month. So you can imagine like scaling up the revenue like that, because the staking yield comes from, it's like a rev share from the profit they end up making on the platform. as far as I understand it. I ended up buying more Winner literally just yesterday. Again, as I mentioned, I like tripled down on this position. I am continually adding to it over time. Winner is on Arbitrum, and you can buy Winner via cow swap on Arbitrum. Number 15 is Rollbit, which I first shared back in September of 2023. In this play, I actually did have higher conviction based on the revenue numbers that Rollbit was sharing. They were saying they're making around at the time, it was around $50 million a month. But despite having literally the best fundamentals period, like possible on paper, this position is basically been down only and is currently down around 38%. And I've heard like a lot of rumors, like some people say like, hey, those numbers aren't real. They're faking it. Like, we don't know. Like Winner's an on-chain gambling product. So it's like an on-chain ecosystem. So like there's full transparency into what's happening. Rollbit is not on-chain. There's a level of you're having to trust them when they say they're making these numbers. And I go back and forth. I hear one side of it, I hear the other side of it. And I don't know. I did end up de-risking my position. A couple months ago, I ended up selling half of my position. And then like a few months after that, I ended up selling half of my leftover position as well. And I'm currently undecided if I'm going to sell the rest of it or not. Number 16 is GOON, which I first shared back in July of 2024. And I originally shared this exclusively in the Obsidian Council when it was sitting at just a $17,000 market cap. And during that first month, it ended up skyrocketing to at one point almost hitting around $10 million in market cap. And my couple $1,000 investment on paper ended up hitting over $3 million, which was insane. Big emphasis on paper though. I couldn't actually sell it for $3 million because the way liquidity works. Since then though, the market has been just slowly bleeding across the board. Pretty much everything from July to like the first half of October was going down in price and kind of just bleeding out. And GOON ended up retracing pretty quickly, I think down to around 2 million. And then it went down to like 1 million. Then it went back up to like 1.8 million. And then at one point, I think it went all the way down to like $800,000. But now it's gone all the way back up to around $1.6 million. This one's just a meme coin, so it's just for fun. And I have no idea what will happen. The bull case for it would be that Polygon ends up doing good, or Polygon has some sort of like meme season, in which case like GOON is the #1 most recognizable meme on Polygon currently at this moment. So if that happens, that should be pretty bullish for the price of GOON. But obviously this thing's max risk. I haven't sold any, currently just holding and supporting the community and seeing what happens. Number 17 is SHRAP, which I shared back in December of 2023. Crypto gaming is a high conviction like category for me, but at the time when it came to SHRAP, I only allocated a small position into it. And overall, since then, SHRAP's down around 28%. And recently, after the success of Off the Grid, I was pretty pumped on that success. SHRAP's really similar as far as Off the Grid goes, and like it's like a AAA title, AAA style title by a previously AAA team. So I decided to allocate a little bit more capital into SHRAP while it's down. Currently, you can buy SHRAP on Avalanche. There might be other places, but as far as I know, I bought mine on Avalanche. Number 18 is Rory, which I also bought back in December of 2023. This one, for some reason, I allocated way more capital into than I did SHRAP. It's a crypto gaming play on Solana that's like in the vein of Pokemon. It's like really similar to Pokemon. Obviously, there was a ton of hype around Solana. I can't remember if Pal World was out around that time. Maybe that played into it. But for whatever reason, I did like a bigger position on this play. But that ended up being an extremely stupid choice, as I'm currently sitting down around 70% on this play. Currently, I'm still holding. I think I had like some extra like meme coin airdrops that I sold off, and I threw a little bit more into this play. Currently just waiting to see what happens. Number 19 is RSC, or Research Coin, which I shared back in April of 2024. This is another high conviction play for me this cycle. RSC is a tiny token today, but it's co-founded by billionaire co-founder of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong. It's currently not listed on any major exchanges. And as I mentioned earlier with Cal, like as soon as it got listed on Binance, it went up 150%. And I personally believe that this token, Research Coin, will generate a massive amount of hype during an alt season, just purely based on the narrative alone. But also with this one, the team behind it and the concept behind it is solid. Like, it is a really good team. It is a really solid concept. And I do think there's a genuine path to this project making a ton of money and really changing the scientific landscape. Currently, I'm sitting up around $44,000 on my RSC play. I've continually added to RSC over the past year. I don't even know how many times I've added to this play over the past year. I just keep throwing money into this, and I'm as bullish as ever on Research Coin. You can currently buy Research Coin on CalSwap via Ethereum. Number 20 is Una, which I shared back in October of 2024. I'm really high conviction on the team behind Una, which is the same team that's behind Persona. They're a bunch of ex-Ubisoft developers, and in my opinion, they're a top-tier team. I personally think that Una is massively undervalued today, sitting at just $2 million in market cap, which, by the way, after I made my last video, there's a ton of people saying, like, as soon as I released the video, they're like, it's already at 5 million, because they were looking at Coin Market Cap or CoinGecko or something like that. When it comes to the market cap for Una, I personally use Deck Screener. I'm currently up around 143% on this play, but I'm not willing to sell anytime soon, just based on the fact that this project is built on Base. I'm really, really bullish on Base projects this cycle. I think they're going to do really well. And this project is in the crypto gaming sector. So I'm waiting for that crypto gaming rotation. And when that happens, I think there's a decent chance that something like Una really takes off just based on the narrative and the fact that like this is an ex-Ubisoft team. A lot of people will put a lot of emphasis on that, especially during a bull market. I think this thing could go a lot higher than most people expect. I've recently added more to this position and I plan to allocate more into it as it dips and as I have the opportunity to do so. You can buy UNA on base via Uniswap or Rabby's built-in swap. Number 21 is FracShare, which I shared back in July of 2023. I'm super bullish on stablecoins as a whole, and I was very bullish on Frax because of this. But for whatever reason, this trade has been just a horrible trade, and I honestly, even to date, cannot tell you why this trade specifically has not worked out. Currently, I'm sitting down around 67% on this play. I recently ended up selling all my Frax tokens to harvest the tax loss, but I do currently plan on buying Frax back and keeping it within my portfolio. Number 22 is Persona, which I shared back in March of 2024. One of my big contrarian takes this cycle is that NFTs will make a comeback. And I personally think that Persona is the single best collection of this cycle. Persona for me is a high conviction bet. My personal belief is that NFTs are a late cycle phenomenon. People only buy NFTs when they've already made a ton of money. They have a ton of extra money to throw around. They want to flex. And so they're buying into these big NFT collections. For me, Persona is a high conviction bet. Obviously, it relies on NFTs making a comeback. It relies on crypto going through an alt season, a ton of money being made, and we have to have a bull market. So there's a lot of different variables that have to fall in line. If those things don't happen, then this is going to be a horrible bet for me. But my bet is that it will work out. Then I'm going to end up making a fortune by having high conviction now before everyone else does. Currently, when it comes to Persona, I would really struggle to tell you at what percentage loss I'm sitting at because I've bought in a lot of NFTs over time. And it's not as easy as like a token where I could just look at my portfolio and be like, oh, I'm sitting at this loss. But if I had to guess, I would guess I'm sitting at around a 30% loss on my Persona investment so far. Some of that is offset by the fact that I'm staking those and I'm earning yield in UNA tokens. And I believe UNA is going to go up a lot. So I actually think that like my UNA token yield ultimately, even if like the NFTs don't make a comeback, will end up covering my investment into these NFTs. That's my thesis and belief. We'll see if that ends up playing out. It's not surprising to me that NFTs aren't catching a bid right now. Again, as I mentioned earlier, they're a hated asset at this moment, and they really are a late cycle phenomenon. So I'm really waiting till later in the cycle before I expect any sort of traction around Persona. Currently, when it comes to Persona though, my conviction remains firm. I'm a big believer. It's my main profile picture on Twitter. And I believe that this is going to do really well. We will see how, if this could be one of my biggest flops of all time. We'll see what happens. Number 22 is GOON, which I jumped into back in October of 2023. I recently did an entire video on this one. It's really complicated because it's not like a normal investment. It's not where I'm just like buying the token, but it's more of a strategy around the token and like how I looped money through. You really should watch the video that I recently made about it if you want to understand how this one works. Again, it's not a normal direct investment by any means. The TLDR on it though is it's been a massive win so far, and I made around $100,000 on this play. Finally, number 23 is Baba. This is one I jumped into last month on Pump.Fun. I thought it was really stupid and really funny, and I just loved it. And so I threw some money in. It ended up graduating, and so far I've made a gain of 1,300%. Currently, as of the time of this recording, it's sitting at around $90,000 in market cap. So it's still just incredibly tiny. And again, this being a meme coin, it's a max risk play. It's just for fun. I'm currently just holding it to see what happens, to see if, during the bull run, it spikes up and becomes something crazy, or maybe it goes to zero. I don't know how it's going to end up playing out. I've talked about before, I view meme coins as basically like lottery tickets. It's just for fun. It's just, it is gambling. That is what meme coins are. Meme coins are not a form of investing. In my opinion, they are way closer to the gambling spectrum than anything else. My current plan for Baba is just to hold it throughout the bull market. I have no plans to get into any other memes this cycle. This is just me allocating a really, really, really tiny portion of my portfolio to a meme on Solana, I have a meme on Polygon, and that way I'll have fun throughout the bull market. If memes are popping off, we have some sort of meme rotation, but I'm not like over allocated and worried about my money if either of them ends up going to zero. You can buy Baba via Jupiter on Solana. As a reminder, these aren't all the tokens I own. I own actually a lot more tokens than this. I share my full portfolio with the Obsidian Council. I also share anytime I buy or sell anything with the Obsidian Council. So if you want to know about these things right when I'm buying them, instead of like seeing it in a video a month later, 2 months later, whatever, joining the Obsidian Council would be how you do that. Currently, it's actually closed for new members, but if you want to join the waitlist in the description of this video, you'll get an email next time I open it back up, and that'll allow you to jump in if you're interested. As a reminder, none of this is investment advice. None of this was me telling you to buy any of these tokens. You can always lose money investing in crypto. I can't tell the future. I can't tell you if any of these things are going to succeed, make a fortune, or they're going to go to zero. Like, I don't know the answer to those things. It's always a risk investing in any asset, and you should always make sure you're doing your own research and owning your own investment decisions before you jump in. If this video is helpful, make sure to hit that like button. If you have any questions or comments, or maybe any other tokens you think I should be adding into my portfolio, let me know in the comment section down below. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell next to it to be notified each time I release a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.